We do not want to see the society opened up to militarism, to military coups, to opportunist pushes, to attempts at political assassination. When you initiate such a political tradition, you find that a century later you are still living within that same tradition. We do not want to open up for generations who are yet unborn a whole political misery which they will take decades to remedy. For that reason, we say quite clearly that we are committed to trying, as Sister Ndai was saying, every possibility of social organization which might defeat this government short of bloodshed and the other kinds of consequences which attend upon that. But let it be clear that if Guyana ever reaches that kind of situation, it will not be the choice of serious and sober and responsible individuals. It will be the choice of those thoughtless few who at the moment are engaged in self-aggrandizement, who do not recognize certain currents of history, do not recognize when they are playing with fire and opening up possibilities such as military coups, etc. Any time that the political situation in Guyana, in the future, in 10 or 15 or even 5 years, were to deteriorate so that conventional politics becomes impossible, it will not be because there are any elements opposed to the government who make that choice. It will be the government that has forced that choice on elements within the population.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another staging of Conversations. Today, it all begins with a story. We'll be profiling intellectual revolutionary, Mr. Walter Rodney. We have a few guests with us, one of whom is sitting right beside me, Mr. Clairmont Chung, who has traveled many miles to be with us this evening via Guyana, via New York, via, I don't know, Tanzania.
Africa.
Where have your journeys
The whole of North America, the rest of the Caribbean, Africa, Europe, inside my mind, hopefully inside of yours.
You recently released a book, Walter Rodney, The Promise of Revolution. What was the promise?
Well, I wanted to restart a debate that had been going on forever, from the time Africans came to the New World. We were deciding when to revolt. No one desired to live in slavery, under oppression, captive. And so, from the beginning, it was about revolution. And it is still the issue today.
So then, would you call yourself a revolutionary?
I wouldn't. People might call me revolutionary, but I see this as the way you live your life. This is my life. You know, it's not. If I challenge power, it's the way I feel.
Go into their libraries and check the Library of Congress cards. Under Europe or European, you will find all entries listed concerning the continent of Europe. You will also find entries listed about Europeans in East Africa, Europeans in North Africa, Europeans in Asia and Australia. Look under the Chinese, you will find entries listed not only for mainland China, but for Malaysia and for the Chinese in North America. But look on the Africa and the Africans, the only entries on the Africans relate to the continent itself. There are no entries on the Africans overseas. There is no such category. Africans who have been raped from the continent mysteriously disappear and become Negro.
The radical movement in the New World, once we were brought out of Africa, was led primarily by people of Caribbean descent. This is from the beginning. And it has not ended. You look at Malcolm X, his mother, as you know, is from Grenada. Stokely Carmichael, the one who created the word Black Power, from Trinidad. Marcus Garvey, of course, and it goes all the way back, before Marcus Garvey. And the Pan-African movement was a Caribbean movement initially. It started with people like George Padmore, Sylvester Williams, all these men from Trinidad. Of course, Garvey was part of that movement also. And though Garvey himself never made it to Africa, and many of those men never did. Padmore became an advisor to Nkrumah in '57 when Ghana achieved independence, and they were very involved as advisors. Again, Nkrumah met them in the New World. They didn't go to Africa to meet him. They met him here, and he took them back with him. But I think looking at all of that, Walter probably felt, and again, I don't know the answer to the question, but Walter saw it as a way that Africa had a certain particular set of problems that Africans had to deal with. And by that he meant continental Africans. That unless they dealt with it, that it wouldn't be solved or remain solved. Even if you solve it, it will be temporarily. It may go. You need to have on-the-ground expertise as opposed to foreign intervention. In as much as the people abroad are Africans, they are not, and the material conditions are very similar. I mean, you look at material conditions like death rates and birth rates and so on. They're very similar from Kingston to Dar es Salaam to Accra. But the agriculture is different. What their main products are different. Their experience is different. Nationality is different. What we refer to as tribalism. Language is different. So there are many differences, and we have to respect that. I think he was trying to give respect, finally, to the history of Africa itself.
So what were you like before this then? Because you say it changed your life. I mean, who were you?
Like most Caribbean boys, we grew up, doing all the playing, cricket, football, the usual things, getting into trouble and so on. Fighting, of course. And trying to make a way for yourself, thinking about your future. Most of us, I'm sure, are working class. I can't speak for everybody, but I would be considered working class. By that I mean my dad had a job. Unemployment is so high today that I believe there's another class we got to refer to as the not working class. And they need more of our attention than any other group. Because whatever successes we think we have, it is only so much until the not working class decides to move and that they want more of the pie. And everything that we thought we worked for would be up for grabs. And so we need to address that issue now. So anyway, I came out of the working class movement. And my father was a nationalist. He believed that black people should control the Caribbean. And he believed in the traditional nationalist concepts, right? So I grew up with that. But education for the working class was that way out. We wanted to make it into the middle class. But I think I was able to see at some point that even that would be short-lived if we don't address the real problems of the society.
So education is irrelevant if society don't sort out its life.
Right, and by education, what I was referring to in that line was, of course, formal education, not the kind that is going on here. Of course, this is as important, if not more important, than any letter you can have behind your name, because you still have to put it into practice. So that was my goal. As most Caribbean boys and girls, we had to go to school, and we were advised that this is the way out of, or up, if not out. And so I did that. But along that way, the world was changing. So I'm a product of that period of the 60s and the 70s, where the world was changing. The whole world was in turmoil. Revolution was everywhere. Not just in the Caribbean, with, of course, Walter Rodney, the person we're discussing tonight, was one of the premier catalysts of the change that happened in the Caribbean. But even he, as prominent and important as he is, was working within a time that drove him. And that time was, of course, Ghana getting independence in 1957, the whole of Africa moving towards independence, the Caribbean independence in the 60s. Even in Europe, white boys and girls were in the streets, in France and in London.
Walter returned to the UWI Jamaica as a lecturer in the Department of History, but after only 10 months was deported in 1968.
67, all the rebellions happened. Detroit and Newark exploded. 65 was Watts. You understand, Malcolm's murder. So 68 is also the Montgomery bus boycott, was successfully ended. But at the same time, that's when they blew up Dr. King's house. And the black people showed up with the rifles, said, you know, what should we do, Dr. King? And he says, if any blood be shed, let it be ours. Now, there was a whole generation of us who didn't accept that. I mean, we certainly loved Dr. King and supported Dr. King, but the idea that somehow if any bleeding was gonna go down, we was gonna have to do the bleeding, we didn't accept that. And then that's when Malcolm X appears. And Malcolm says, you know, you treat people like they treat you.
So you're a lawyer turned documentarian turned revolutionary.
Don't hold the lawyer thing against me.
No, I
Yeah, it's a means to an end. Is a means of. What I've learned professionally is the way that the system works, and by the system I mean we're talking about capitalism, which is the system we're living under. Some people can't call things by their names. You know, they have problems with things like communism, Marxism. We need to say these things out, try and find meanings for them, but you can't do that if you're not speaking. You know. So if we're living in this system that we call capitalism, becoming a lawyer, any kind of formal education is a means of going through the system, rising through it, improving your pay rate. But in that process, you get educated because you see all the kids who you're defending look like you and the people who are here tonight. Where are the other people? Why aren't they committing any crimes? Or are they committing crimes? Of course, we know that the war on drugs has been a war on people of African descent. The war on terror is a war on people of African descent. If you don't believe me, with time, I'm gonna lay that out to you. But if you're defending, I've been practicing close to 15 years in the New York area, and out of, I don't know how many, let's say 2,000 clients, I may have represented maybe 5 people of European descent, direct, clear European descent. And when you look at the numbers, you realize that African boys and girls are being targeted in the United States, in fact, all over the world. What happened here in Kingston, if I may go to the Tivoli massacre, could only have happened in that context. And the silence that surrounds it now is happening in that context. The context of an attack on the war on drugs and the war on terror. Dadas, whatever, I don't know him personally, I can't speak on what he is as, as an individual, but it's really an example of the power that you're living under, that the United States would have an official airline flying over Kingston searching for a man that is not a citizen of that country. In other words, the border, which is the United States border, has been extended across the Caribbean. You are being surveilled, but you have none of the rights of a citizen. Now, being Guyanese, I shouldn't, it's not a critique of Jamaican society because it happens all over the world. In South Africa, Marikana, some of you might have known, 43 people were killed unarmed. This is in the era post-Mandela. You know, the heads of state are people that look like us. How do we solve this problem? We know we can't solve the problem by electing someone that looks like us. It's more complex than that. So we have to start thinking really, really deeply.
You have me thinking really, really deeply.
Since the government itself has taken over so many facets of economic life, has nationalized the bauxite, has nationalized sugar, has nationalized a number of private firms, justifiably so, it has taken up a position as the principal, far and away the largest single employer in the country. Consequently, the ground is really set for the utilization of this device of the party card, of political control by means of denying the right to work. And it is a frightening situation in its own right. because in all reality, it is unnecessary to threaten a man's life and liberty if by the fundamental threat to his capacity to earn and survive, you can reduce him to a state of submission. And this is continually what is taking place.
The first war was to get you to do the work. And now you're no longer needed. You're being deported en masse. We deported 400,000 people last year. 400,000 people. 400,000 the year before, and 400,000 the year before. 1.2 million people in the last 3 years are deported from the United States. Now, you know, most of those people look like you and me. It's becoming a social social uproar in the Caribbean, how to deal with people who are coming back involuntarily. All of this is happening under a president that looks like you. Moreover, it's happening under a justice attorney general who looks like you. He's also a Caribbean. Not that it should matter, but as an anecdote.
The Prime Minister of Jamaica, a black man, you know, he looks black anyway, he was approached with a request to let African history and an African language, Swahili, be taught in the schools. And he said, no, we can't have any of that. He gave some reason, curious reason, something about there being so many different races in Jamaica. Very curious. I mean, 95% of the people are black, but he can't teach an African language.
What Walter was looking at was that injustice, and speaking frankly. That's what he was known for. That's why Prime Minister Sherry decided, we can't have this boy here. This is a problem. And the first opportunity they got, you can't come back.
When they banned him from Jamaica, it's my house they come very small. We live together and break down that house and took me to jail. I spent 3 weeks in jail. We were the only one that they hold. Jerry Small, myself, and 2 other brethren. Right? And we spent 3 weeks in jail because they said we start their whole rigmarole, what it was here. And it wasn't so. We were going down the road quietly, peacefully, demonstrating that you cannot ban him. This man named Mr. Shearer, I hope every black people know that him really shear us out. He's the most stupid prime minister I've ever seen in our country. That man banned everything that named black coming through the airport. If you carry a book named black with anything banned black people, they take it at the airport from you. Him say, them take it out the bookstore, everything. Yeah. You understand me? Is him say, where you see 1 and 2 of them, lock them up. Right? But anyhow, we were going down by Hope Road, and he sent the police and said, don't let us pass Jamaica House. And we were just marching to demonstrate that, you know, we don't agree with what's going on. And police come out and tear gas us and all kind of thing. Some of the tear gas didn't explode, so we put it back on them. That was when Jamaica was in its conscious state. And I don't know where. That time, all barbershop locked down in Jamaica. There was no barbershop here. Everybody have their afro. Men carry their beard. Now, everywhere you go is barbershop. Everybody clean up everything now and gone on a different level.
You know, I'll relate revolution to the way that I can see it today. Through our music. You know, we have different kinds of art that are showing different hints of revolution, but is it revolution or is it an imitation of such? When I think of the 60s and the 70s, when we were having gatherings all the time, making plans, everybody has a post, has responsibilities and assignments. We know it's a mission. What are we talking about revolution?
You mentioned the music, and I guess you meant you're including culture as a whole. Just like speaking, music and culture is itself revolution. I find, hopefully I'll get the chance to talk about Jay-Z. Well, maybe this is the time to talk about it, because this is culture and the corruption of it. I don't want to attack people who are quote-unquote successful, but I have some real questions. When Jay-Z signs an agreement, he owns a piece of the Nets. The Nets are playing in an arena that has Barclays Bank name on it. It's called Barclays something. And Barclays are one of the primary banking institutions that was involved in the slave trade. I'm not making it up. If you read Eric Williams's Capitalism and Slavery, the Barclays family actually owned slaves right here in Jamaica. They owned a plantation in Jamaica. But he made a CD called American Gangster. He loves the film that Denzel Washington came in by the same name, American Gangster, and he wanted to do the soundtrack for that film, but someone else did it. And a kind of response to it, he did his own CD called American Gangster. That was followed by a documentary series called American Gangster, featuring only African American gangsters. So what Jay-Z and others have done, the person who stole you is no longer the gangster. You were the gangster. He's gone to Africa, just like you and I have. He received a chair, what do you call the chieftaincy? You know, they give you a chair in Nigeria. And I'm very concerned about it. I wrote him a piece, which I sent. I don't know if he read it or not. There was a story that Eric Williams told in his book about an African chief who was involved in the trade. He made lots of money, and he made a deal one night, delivered his cargo, got paid, and the captain told him, he said, stay and have a drink. He said, nah, his pocket is loaded with the gold and thing. You want to go back to his palace. And eventually they convinced him to stay. He drank and had a good time. He woke up the next morning, he was in chains. And that's the story I sent to Jay-Z. I said, trod with care, because you don't know who you're dealing with. These people been slaving from the get-go, Barclays and them. And they're not about to change. When you were capital, captives were capital. When we do the balance sheet, you would be there as part of the machinery, animals, and so on. You're not that now. You're actually a liability. And the purpose is to lock you up, and the numbers support this. Deport you whenever they can. And generally, I don't know where benign neglect leads to death. But that cannot happen. I hope, right?
Yeah. I'll read some words from Rex Nettleford's interview. He said, in reference to Walter's impact at UA, he said, but he really got to the core. And that's why he became a threat. And he was invested in it. He was an excellent scholar, very bright. And to bring that kind of intellectual thing to it, it was frightening for some people. Walter, in response, he says, when we have to deal with the presence of history, many historians are afraid to really deal with that. The moment you are a social scientist and you start to reflect too closely on the present, you are called a subversive in the third world. A social scientist.
What importance would history have if we can't use it in our lives now? It means that, all our ancestral work, creativity, language, religion, is destroyed, basically. You have to make it present now.
What I want you to know is a very soft, his wife was a nurse at the university at the time. Yes, and he had his son here. And a very soft, nice brethren, to show you how to develop Africa. That was his whole thing. And how we must get independent here too. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sister Minnie, for your contribution. Sister Minnie is one of the first, as history would record it, first Rasta uptown. One of the first Rasta woman uptown too. She really live it, you know. She walk the streets and feel it. Maybe one day we'll have a conversations with you. In the words of Horace Campbell, who was also interviewed in the documentary, he says, "Our task must be mastering African history so that we can make a contribution to the question of African liberation." Thank you very much, Clairmont Chung, for spending the afternoon and having a conversation with us.
Thank you, Donisha. It's been a wonderful experience for me.
Give thanks.
Thanks.
Lepo. And you can clap.
I am tired. I want to pay back. Daddy doesn't love me. My brother smokes too much and can't stand still. Mama cried tears for years. Still don't know how she raised us by herself. Life gave us many struggles, and it feels unfair. No, I'm not sure where I'm going, but music's my only release. There are roadblocks every direction, coals of fire under my feet. I get no sleep. I get no sleep. I get no sleep. Enough dreams, but no sleep. Can't stop now, I'm going higher. Lost something I couldn't keep. Been put down and put out so many, many times. You know to eat. All I have are pockets and a dream. Got nothing to lose now. Don't get it confused. I got nothing to lose. Now I'm not sure where I'm going, but music's my only release. There are roadblocks every direction, coals of fire under my feet. I get no sleep. I get no sleep. I get no sleep. Enough dreams, but no sleep. I get no sleep. I get no sleep. I get no sleep. Enough dreams, but no sleep. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Them say when I get time, them I feel let you go. Almighty, I'm me guide, now fall back on you. Let me come and live, come and make the music. Them say when I get time, them I feel let you go. Almighty, I'm me guide, now fall back on you. Let me come and live, come and make the music. Now I'm not sure where I'm going. Music's my only release. There are roadblocks every direction, coals of fire under my feet. No, I'm not sure where I'm going, but music's my only release. There are roadblocks every direction, coals of fire. I get no sleep. I get no sleep. I get no sleep. Enough dreams, but no sleep. I get no sleep. I get no sleep. I get no sleep. Enough dreams, but no dreams, but no. I get no sleep. I get no sleep. I get no sleep, no dreams, but no sleep. I get no sleep. I get no sleep. Me I feel work hard work make it hard. I get no sleep.